Minecraft is changing continuously. New biomes were added or changed, and new structures were brought to the game. However, one biome hasn't really been updated in a long time: the desert. That's why I decided to update the Minecraft Desert. I added multiple new structures to explore and loot to find. I'm aiming to add some new challenges to the game and make exploring the hot and far deserts more fun and exciting. In this video, I want to explore these new structures with you. If you want to play with the data pack yourself, there is a download link in the video description. But first, let's explore the new desert temple. The path to one of those temples might be a long one, as they don't spawn too often in the desert. But while the later structures I added are made for the late game, the first temple can be explored without any special equipment, so the main challenge is simply to find one. On the way to the temple, you can already see the first changes. The desert sky looks slightly different. The sky has a hotter and brighter color now, in my opinion, and in addition I also changed the water color in the desert. To me this looks more like water that is surrounded by sand and heat than the vanilla color for the desert water. Now we already reached the first structure, the desert temple. It is meant as an update to the vanilla desert temple, and if you try to locate it via /locate, you also have to search for the vanilla structure, as I simply replaced it with the new temple. The temple now doesn't look like a pyramid anymore and instead has two main parts and a back area. In the back there are multiple pillars. This structure has been built a long time ago and it's meant as a place to gather and store water. The pillars in the back once held large amounts of water and were used to protect it from the heat. Today the structure partly lies in ruins. For the inside there are multiple variants of the temple. They are randomly chosen from a pool of structures and then basically just mixed together. Therefore exploring the desert temple multiple times can still be exciting. When entering the structure there is always a large room. Basically there are multiple rooms located in the two main parts of the temple. They contain graves, sand and two types of vases. They are basically new types of the decorated pot. However, they cannot be crafted or picked up but only be broken. If you hit them, they break and you get some loot, sometimes even some gold or diamonds. These vases can be found throughout the entire structure. In one of the two parts of the structure there is a path down. These catacombs are partly buried in sand and lead to a room that might seem familiar. It is meant as a reference to the vanilla temple. There is a large hole underneath the floor and at the bottom there are 4 chests and also a significant amount of TNT. These chests contain some loot that is quite similar to the vanilla desert temple loot, but there is one major difference. The armor trim that usually can be found in these temples can't be found here anymore, and instead there is a relatively high chance of finding a map that leads to another structure. This other structure, however, can be many hundreds or even thousands of blocks away. Similar to the woodland mansion, they are relatively rare. I hope you're enjoying this video. Leave a like and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos like this one. While passing the desert following the map, you might find some new and slightly unusual patterns in the sand. They are not too rare, but the main challenge is identifying them. If you dig down underneath these patterns, you will find another structure that is entirely buried in sand. This structure is very old and served the first people as a place to bury the dead. Today it contains a husk spawner and a chest as well as some rooms. Some of them also contain some loot. I added this structure as a small dungeon that is relevant in the early game, but also for the late game. The chests contain a special food. This food is a variant of rotten flesh. People in the past put potions in these chests, and throughout the years the potions mixed with the rotten flesh and created a superfood. This food heals a large amount of hunger and is probably one of the best eatable items, but you can only find it in these chests. This means the structure might still be relevant in the late game when you can search for the structure with an elytra to save a lot of time. At this point in the game, you could farm this special rotten flesh in larger amounts and eat it primarily, or at least that's kind of the idea I had. After exploring these ancient graves, nothing stands in our way of finding the final largest structure. Getting there might take some time, but it should very much be worth it. Before we can enter the pyramid, we have to get better equipment as this structure is meant for the late game. While I'm farming some diamonds, how would you imagine the inside of a pyramid in Minecraft? What rooms and mysteries would you expect? Because I feel like most structures in Minecraft are relatively fast overexplored and you kind of know everything about the structure. So what new things would a structure need to stay interesting over time? Let me know in the comments. Now, the largest structure I added is the pyramid. The main structure always generates the same, but in detail there are many different variants of the pyramid. For example, the outside is randomly generated so that the damage on the sides is never the same for two pyramids. When we get closer to the pyramid, we will get an effect so we can't break any blocks anymore. I would recommend bringing some TNT as the entrance is in some cases buried. Usually, however, it should be visible from the outside. Now, for the inside of the pyramid, there are a bunch of different rooms. The first main room is always the redstone room, or at least I call it that. There are two versions of this room. In one, there is a riddle with some lamps, and it's the goal basically to activate all of these lamps at the same time. The other version of the room asks you to bring some items that have to be sacrificed to continue. There are three ways now. To not spoiler exactly how to navigate through the pyramid, I'm not going to show what lies exactly behind every door, and instead I'm just going to explain the major rooms of the pyramid. There is one larger room made up of many smaller paths and rooms that is similar to a maze. It is necessary to pass this room to get to the final boss room. Another important room is the library. It generates at some point in the pyramid randomly and can contain an important new enchantment. But we will get to that later. Another room that generates at some point in the pyramid is the trap room. If you see a chest like this, well, it might just be a chest, but it could also be a trap. And apparently there is also a huge hole in the ground of the pyramid at some point. Who knows where this leads? If you find a path like this, that's a good sign because these hallways lead to the final boss room. And around the boss room there are also some hidden rooms with some good loot, so it might be worth checking behind some walls. Once the boss is dead, you can break blocks again, and basically then finding those hidden rooms shouldn't be a challenge. Now for the boss fight. It starts as soon as you get close enough to the boss. You will get an advancement once it spawns. The boss won't despawn, so it doesn't matter if you accidentally trigger its spawning before you find the room. Also, the advancement is granted to everyone close enough to the pyramid, since you can only get the advancement during the moment when the boss spawns, and the boss can only be spawned once per pyramid. And now, after all that explanation, meet the skeleton. Well, actually it's supposed to be a mummy, but I didn't really know how to change the texture without removing the skeleton texture, so now it's just a skeleton, which is kind of sad, but yeah. However, don't underestimate the skeleton. To fight and win, you'll need a good sword, enchanted with sharpness, good armor, and ideally also a shield. The skeleton will spawn reinforcements every now and then, and if that wasn't enough, you'll also be thrown at with potions, and especially instant damage hits hard, so yeah, be careful. You'll also notice that the skeleton is holding a new weapon. This is one of the main reasons why you want to come to this pyramid. Upon death, the skeleton will drop this dagger, and this is a viable new option for combat. I tried to add a new weapon that is neither completely overpowered nor absolutely useless. Basically, the dagger has a lower range than a sword or an axe. It also deals slightly less damage than a netherite sword, which would be the equivalent sword type, but it has a much higher attack speed. Especially when fighting mobs, this seems very useful to me. But the dagger has also another disadvantage. You cannot make a sweeping attack with it, and obviously it also doesn't disable shields like an axe can. The dagger can be enchanted via books with most normal sword enchantments. Currently it's not possible to enchant it in the enchantment table, but I think that might be possible in a future version of Minecraft. I think I saw something about that in a snapshot that might make it possible in the future. Before, I mentioned there was an important enchantment in the library. Well, this enchantment is a new enchantment that I added, and it's meant for the dagger. It's basically the equivalent to Fire Aspect on a sword. Slow Death basically adds the Wither effect to the dagger. Whenever you hit another entity, it will have the effect for a few seconds, and this is actually pretty strong because it can increase the initial damage of the dagger significantly. Especially in surprise attacks, the dagger will be pretty strong, and also the higher the level of the enchantment is, the longer the effect will last. And that's pretty much everything the datapack adds to the game. Before you leave the desert pyramid, don't forget to loot the treasure rooms surrounding the boss room. In one of the chests there is also the armor trim that was previously in the vanilla desert temple. Like and subscribe. I hope you're excited to explore the new structures for yourself. Enjoy!